and happy STAMPtember, friends! I'm Yana Smakula, and today I am super excited to show you one of the new STAMPtember exclusive collaboration sets called Framed Friendship Set by Altenew. Let's jump right in. I started to work on my card by doing all of the stamping first. I used a Mini Misty stamping tool and Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink to stamp this image. I'm stamping the beautiful floral cluster in the center of my panel. Next, I'm adding a sentiment. The sentiments in this set are all individual, so you can build your own, which is really neat. I'm stamping the word friend using VersaFine Onyx black ink, and then adding hello above the friend and also stamping that in VersaFine Onyx black ink. I used Memento for stamping the floral cluster as I knew I would be coloring the cluster with Copic markers, and I needed to make sure the ink would not bleed when it comes in contact with alcohol. Now this stamp set has two beautiful frames. You can use the frames to make frames, obviously, for your cards, and there are various ways to use these half-frame images. I'm stamping mine in the two opposite corners, somewhat framing my focal point. You can also stamp these half frames closer together to have a full frame on the card, so there are various ways you can use these. Now let's do some coloring. I decided to go with bright and cheerful colors. I'm using YG00, YG01, and YG25 markers to color some of the leaves green. I'm doing simple coloring, going from light to medium to dark, and then again to medium and light to blend it all out. Next, I'm using G21, YG63, and YG00 to color the rest of the leaves muted green. Now, adding the YG00 over the G21 and YG63 adds vibrancy while still keeping the colors somewhat muted, if that makes sense. To color the flowers, I'm using yellow, red, and pink colors, starting with Y11, Y15 and Y17 colors to color the bottom flower. Kind of looks like a daffodil to me, but I'm not sure. What do you think? What kind of flower is this to you? Coloring the next flower red, and for that I'm using R22 as my lightest color, R35 as my medium color, and R39 as my darkest color. I also later colored the center of this flower yellow. The pink flower is colored with RV00, RV10, and RV23. This is one of my favorite pink color combinations, and these markers, when used together, give a very pale, very soft pink color on the card. I really love it. With the coloring done, I trimmed my panel to 3 3/4 by 5 inches using my paper trimmer. Now this did trim a bit of the frame stamping off, but my idea was to re-stamp the same frame detail on the card base and just layer the colored panel on top of it. At this point, I haven't yet removed the frame stamp from the lid of my Misty, so it was very easy to stamp that frame exactly in the same spot as before, but this time on the folded card base. And here you can see the way it's supposed to layer. I used foam adhesive and foam mounted the panel, the colored panel, onto the card to create dimension. I love to add dimension to my cards, and I prefer dimensional cards to one-layer flat projects. I adhered and matched the stamping of the frame on the panel to the stamping of the frame on the card base. Finally, I had another floral cluster stamped and colored. This was my practice piece, and I decided I wanted to cut one of the flowers out, so I cut it out right up to the edge and used it on the card. I just added one more flower to spice this design up. I also cut the leaves out and added leaves under the flower, creating another mini cluster, if you will. I foam mounted the flower. I did trim it so that one edge of the flower was straight and went against the edge of the panel, and then I used glue to add the leaves. I also embellished my card using jewels. Lately, I'm enjoying using silver jewels from Pretty Pink Posh, so I added silver jewels to my card, and that finished my project. If you make a card inspired by this video, we'd love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. We always enjoy seeing what you make. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me today. Happy STAMPtember, friends. Bye.